everybody, Sensei Randy here. Welcome back to next episode of 40 Plus Fitness. And we got a really good show for you today. We're going to show you a whole bunch of different stuff. First thing we're going to work on today, we're going to show you for our workout segment an actual heavy bag workout that we do. We're going to give you the background, how to do a heavy bag workout. We're going to go through some different moves you can do, how to put routines together, and let you get out some aggression by banging on some bags. So a lot of fun. Great time, great stress reliever, and a great workout all wrapped up into one. Then for our nutrition segment today, we're really fortunate. We have a nutritionist named Cretsinger, and we sat down with her and we did an interview about diet and nutrition. She's got some amazing views, not only on nutrition specifically as if you're trying to lose weight, but nutrition is health of your body and different ways to change your diet in order to reduce inflammation, which is really a huge part of what we deal with in everyday life. And so many of our health issues, not just aches, pains, stuff like that, what we think of with inflammation is a result of inflammation in our body, but our overall health, the condition of our blood, the amount of energy we have, all of that stuff is controlled by various types of inflammation in the body. She really has a great way, she breaks it down and gives a lot of great insight on what causes it and little changes that you can make to have a really big impact on your diet. And then the last thing we're going to do for our recovery segment today, we're going to have a little fun. It's kind of a cross between some recovery and nutrition, but we're going to give you some after workout shakes, a couple different recipes. In our earlier shows, you saw the green drinks that we do every morning. We also do pre-workout drinks, post-workout drinks. We got a couple really cool different protein shakes that you can make just to change up the recipes a little bit using different kinds of fruit, different kinds of protein. And we walk you through some of that. So really great show today. I hope you guys enjoy it. I hope you get a lot out of it. And here we go. Hey guys, Sensei Randy here. Welcome back to 40 Plus Fitness. And we're going to give you a workout today. It's not going to come as a surprise, I'm sure. One of my favorite all-time workouts. We're going to do a little heavy bag work today. So we're going to give you different routines you can do on a heavy bag. A couple things I really like about the heavy bag workouts. Number one is you can mix up the intensity on them. You can mix up the time. You can mix up the length, the duration. You can take away the rest between the rounds. You can add muscle building. You can add conditioning. If you think about it, not a lot of fighters that you see out there are out of shape. I mean, so it's a really great workout. The other great part about this workout is if you're having a rough day and you're kind of stressed out, this is a phenomenal way to release those endorphins and to get you feeling better. So a couple things we want to do before we work out. One of our main focuses always is proper form. All of our exercises we stress proper form. Very important when we're hitting a heavy bag that we're using proper form. And something that we focus a lot on at Inner Dragon, where we teach, is making sure if we're going to do workouts on the bag that we're using proper form. And the reason for that is there's a higher risk of injury if you're not kicking and punching properly. So a few things you need. I like to use hand wraps. Notice I have my hands all wrapped up today for this. It seems a little complicated, and the first few times you put them on, it can be a little challenging. I found the best way to do it. I found a video on YouTube. How to do wrist wraps. A couple of the fighters did a few of them that are phenomenal. And they're all different ways to do them too. So if you go on YouTube and you play a little bit, see what you're comfortable with, what feels best in your hands. The important thing about the wraps, make sure that they're covering your knuckles. The purpose of the wraps is really to protect your wrists. So as you're hitting harder, you're not flexing, hyperextending your wrist too much under stress, and protects the smaller bones of the hand so you're not damaging the bones of your hand, so everything stays tight. The other thing we're going to do is we're going to grab a pair of gloves. There's all kinds of gloves you can use. These, the typical boxing gloves that people use. I believe these are 14 ounce, they come in 12 ounce, 16 ounce. These are great. I'll use these if I'm looking to get a little bit heavier workout in with my hands. The higher the weight of the glove, the longer you're punching for, of course, the more you're going to get. If I'm really looking to go full cardio, I use my fingerless gloves. These are the ones you see on the UFC a lot. These are all my favorite. We're going to use these today. If you're looking for gloves, make sure you find something that is somewhat padded, even these fingerless gloves, and you want something that's going to wrap around your wrist and secure your wrist. These are made to slide right over the wrist strap, so they work perfect. So, a few things we want to do when we're working with our bag. And I had mentioned the reason I like doing these bag workouts so much is that you can mix them up. Good basic routine you can do. You can settle in on a basic routine that you like. You can work the same combinations over and over. What we like to do is we'll set it for a certain amount of time. A lot of times in class, especially with the beginners, we'll do like a 1-minute round working on the bag. And then we'll do about a 40-second break between rounds. So we'll give you 40 seconds to relax, breathe, and catch your breath, and then boom, right back into it, and we go again. And that gives you that rise and fall. It gives you a chance to breathe, helps get more oxygen into your system, get your blood racing, slows it down, get your pulse racing, slows it down, which actually helps burn fat a lot faster. So what we're going to do here, just some basic punches. And what we're going to do is we're going to go through some of the form for the punches that we're going to do and some of the kicks that we're going to work on. And then from there, we'll go into some of the types of routines you can put together if you want to do a good bag workout. So one of the big things I watch when I do this, like I said, there's a few different types of training that you can do. I'm a huge fan of if we're going to do a certain type of training, or if I'm doing something specific, I want to train toward that type of thing. So a lot of the fighters, as they do, we'll start off with our jab. Jab is always my front hand. So if my right foot is forward, my right hand is forward, that's going to be my jab. I'm coming out. Now, there's a lot of discussion about jabs and how we turn it. A lot of people like to turn the jab over and hit with the top of it like that. That works great for a lot of the actual fighting and combat type applications. What I teach a lot of my sport fighters, however, is from here, I'm coming straight out, my hands straight up and down. If you do martial arts, it's pretty much a thrust punch, and I want to come straight out. All right, the reason I'm coming straight out with my jab like this and not turning it over, as I roll it over, I actually extend the shoulder. I pull the tendons across. Everything kind of tightens up as I go. If I keep my hands straight, everything's in a nice alignment and it just comes straight out, which means there's no resistance. So my hands come out faster. Where sport karate, it's all about points. It's all about trying to get out there nice and fast, score your point and get back. I want to have as little resistance as possible as I come out so that I can get out fast and come back. If I'm looking to go power and I'm really looking to hurt somebody with my jab, more of an application for boxing or kickboxing, MMA, where you're actually doing fighting, I'm going to turn it over, get a little more power to it. You can go either way. I like to train both just because I love to mix up what I do. So from here, first hand is my jab. I'm coming straight out to the bag, coming straight back. Notice as I work, I'm in a good fighting stance. My feet are open. They're not really wide. See a lot of people when they come in and they've been doing martial arts, they like to get into these low stances to fight. For me, I like to kind of stay up tall. I like to keep bouncing and moving. Keeps me faster on my feet. If I'm in a lower stance, it's harder for me to shift and move. So I'll keep my feet a little bit wider than my shoulders maybe. My front foot is going to be pointing right at my target. Back foot comfortable, a little bit of a bend. Body sideways, protecting all of my main targets. Hands are up. So as I do my bag workout, I'm going to come up, my jab, I'm going to come straight out, and I'm going to come straight back. So it's just a quick punch out, quick punch right back to my bag. If I keep my hand tight, nice and strong, pop that shoulder out, all the way out, boom, all the way back. All right? So that's our jab. We're going to add our cross to that. Most frequent used combination, I come out, I do my jab, I'm going to come right over the top with my cross. Notice as I come over with my cross, I turn my shoulder, I turn my hand, I'm hitting square right into my target. My leg settles down, it's going to lock down on the floor, I plant that hip, and I drive my punch right from down here in my leg. So the power from this is coming all the way from the floor. I'm going to use my foot, my legs, my hips, my back, my shoulder, everything coming right through into that punch. So my jab is nice and quick. My cross is going to come over the top. It's going to come nice and strong. It's going to be a little bit slower. That's why it's such an effective combination and so many people use it. My jab comes out there quick, gets in the person's face, gets in their eyes, gets their hands moving, gives me an extra little bit of a second to get that the reverse punch out, make a nice strong reverse punch. So as I work my combination, I can be up here, I can go 1, 2, nice and strong. Coming out 1, 2, popping into the bag. Notice I'm planting, I'm turning, I'm using my whole body, torquing that hip all the way through my strike. Another basic strike we're going to work from here, we're going to come around with a hook. So as I do my hook, my hand is going to come out to the outside, but as I do the hook, my elbow is actually going to come up, and I'm going to come around more in a circle. So where my jab and my cross will both come in a straight line right to my target, my hook is actually going to come around a little bit. Purpose of this is if the person has their hands up, I want to try to come behind their hands or come up over their shoulder. You see a lot of fighters as they're going, they're going to be having their shoulders up to kind of protect their chin. So I want to try to come over the top on that and make contact right there. So as I work this combination on the bag, it'd be 1, 2, I can come up and throw that big hook. All right. I can also do it with my lead hand, 1, 2, there's my big hook that way. So for a routine to put together for hands, all I need to do is I'm here, I can mix it up, I can do my jab and my cross, throw a hook. Usually when I do these workouts, I like to go freestyle, which means I'm not going to have a set routine. I like to mix them up. I have been doing this a while, so it tends to flow a little bit easier. If you're just getting into working this type of workout though, pick a routine that feels comfortable. Come up, do your jab, cross, do a hook, and then I can do a little dip. So we can get our legs working into this. I can dip this way, I can slide this way, keeping my head up, always with my eyes on the target. So from here, 1, 2, as I duck under, I come up, boom, and I throw that big cross to the back. So to put that combination together, it would be 1, 2, I'm going to duck, boom, and as I come up from my slide, boom, there's my big left hand right to the chin. All right. Now, as I mentioned, I'm doing this all right-handed today to make it easier to see. Everything we do on one side, exactly the same on the opposite side. Same thing, my jab is my front hand. So as I switch my feet, I'm also switching my hands, driving into my target this way, all the way through, all the way up. All right. Another cool trick that you can do when you're doing this type of workout is I tend to throw most of my punches to my head as I'm working. You also want to get down to the body. So I want to turn my punches down and work from here. It's going to work a different set of muscles. You're engaging more of your lower back, driving those punches into the body. I can come straight into the body this way, mix them up. You can also mix up the speed and the intensity of the strikes. I can come in and do just a couple quick jabs and a couple quick crosses with some hooks, or I can take my time, find my spot, 1, 2, 3, keep it moving. Whole time keeping my body moving, staying up on my feet, bouncing, sliding, in and out we go. All right. So that's using my hands. You could get a really good workout in, even 10 to 15 minutes on the bag, doing 5, 6 rounds, minute each, 40 seconds between each one. As you get better and your cardio gets better and you start to move up, I move my length of my round up. So I'll go from 1 minute and try to work my way up. So if I'm really competing, I'm going to be doing basically 3-minute rounds. So I'm doing a 3 to a 4 minute of continuous motion and punching. If I do increase the length of my round that I'm striking or kicking, I'll also increase the break between. So I'll get a little bit more rest in between. Say I take my 40-second normal break, I'll bump it up to a minute, minute and 20, just to give me a little bit more time to catch my breath and then jump right back in it. So basic combinations we can put together. Again, jab, cross, I got my hooks, and I'm coming to my body. I can come straight in. Typically around, an uppercut will come up underneath the chin this way, driving that punch up underneath. Tough to do with a bag. We can come right into the bag, however. So if I come low, come in almost in like to the stomach, like I'm coming in with a low shot, or like to the kidneys if they were turned, I can come in under that way and strike the bag. So I can still get that motion with that uppercut. As I do that, I'm pushing off my heels, I'm driving my body up, striking into the bag. So that's a lot of the basic punches that you can use. Doesn't include all the fun stuff you see in the UFC. For example, all your elbows. I can throw my roundhouse elbows, driving elbows. We can come backwards with elbows. All of that's there to throw into your workout. As you start to get more comfortable, you can start to add more in. Now, if you really want to engage your body, real fast way to burn calories and to eat up oxygen is we're going to use our legs. Your legs are some of your biggest muscles in your body, so every time you engage your legs, they burn more oxygen, they take more calories. So you're getting a more intense workout every time you can engage those legs. Notice when I was saying, even when I'm doing my hands, my feet are constantly moving, I'm ducking, bending my knees, I'm sliding my body. I want to try to engage my legs as much as possible. We're also going to work some kicks from this area. So start off with just some basic kicks. Basic roundhouse kick. As I'm approaching the bag here, I'm going to take my front foot and I'm going to turn my foot out to the outside so it's planing away from the bag. Hands stay up, elbows stay in. I'm going to bring my knee up and point my toes down this way so I can reach right up to the bag. And then as I throw that kick, it's going to come up and I'm going to strike into the bag nice and strong. As I come down, I tuck my knee back in and I re-chamber back out. All right? So real important part of these kicks, and this is one of those kicks that we see a lot where people aren't using the right form, and it's really dangerous. And the reason for that is, notice as I do this kick, it's got a lot of force coming, and it's going to put a lot of strain on the knee especially. So as I pivot my hip, as I turn, my foot is turning over, my knee is pointing, and I'm coming up at my target. So when I hit my target, my knee is extended and I'm hitting straight into the target with that force. A lot of people tend to kind of come up into the bag this way. The problem with that is your knee is bent against the strain and it's not bending in the plane of movement that the knee has. Your knee is made to bend forward and backwards. If you ever had knee problems, you realize how dangerous it is when that knee moves at an angle. So what I want to do is I'm here, I'm going to turn, I'm going to get my leg pointed directly into the line of my strike so that all of that force gets absorbed by the extension of the knee and the muscles. That way I'm not putting strain on any of the ligaments that are around the knee. So again, basic roundhouse kick, I'm going to pivot, make sure my hip opens up, hands stay in tight, I turn, boom, there's my strike. Can go back leg or front leg with roundhouse kicks. A lot of sport fighters work a lot of front leg roundhouse kicks because they're so close, they're so fast, they come right up from the front. If I'm doing a front leg roundhouse kick, my back leg is already pivoted, my front hips are already open, so all I need to do is get my knee up, my toes down, boom, there's my shot right into my bag. So I can come up, throw a nice quick front leg roundhouse kick as well. Another kick we're going to work on the bag a lot is going to be our side kicks. Side kicks are a great kick to come off the line with. I'm here, hands are up. My side kick, in order to throw an effective side kick, I'm going to have my hip turned out again. In my stance, my knee is going to come up. I'm going to extend my foot. I'm going to tuck that knee and I'm going to extend into my target this way. So notice as I do this, my toes are sideways, hence the name side kick. Body sideways, kick coming from my side, coming right out. So I come up, boom, and there's my strike coming right into my bag. So I want to really plant that back foot. I want to tuck my knee in tight. The force of this kick comes from the extension of that hip, driving the leg, pushing that heel out. I'm trying to drive my heel through my target. From here, I can also do a rear leg side kick as long as I pivot and turn and get my leg going up. Okay? Two more kicks we're going to work on a lot on the bag. Basic front kick. I'm going to be kicking with the bottom of my foot. I'm really going to focus this kick on trying to drive my heel. So I want to get my knee up high. I want to chamber that knee up high. I want to point my toes up high so when I hit the bag, I'm driving with the bottom of my foot. I'm hitting the bottom of my foot through my target. So I want to come up, push that back heel out, and come back down. Want to be careful when I do this, I don't catch my toes on the way up. All right? A lot of chance of injury if we come up and we really snap that foot, hitting with the top of my toes, have a chance to flex my toes down, can injure your toes. When I do this, I tend to do it barefoot in the studio. I have shoes on today here at the TV studio, but normally they'd be barefoot. So I'm here, I tuck my foot, tuck my knee, I pop that kick out right there. Last one we're going to work on the bag is going to be our back kick. From my back kick, I'm actually turning away. Person's behind me. Say they're running up to me. I'm here. I'm going to turn and look over my shoulder. Really important. Reason it's so important, number one, I want to make sure somebody's behind me that I need to kick, and unless I turn and look, I'm not going to know. Number two, I want to spot my target. I want to see what it is. All right, I want to make sure it's not a friend of mine coming up behind me to help me out that I'm going to turn around and take out at the knees, right? So I'm here, I'm going to turn and look over my shoulder. As I do, I pull my knee in and I extend my heel out. I'm driving this kick down nice and low. My toes are pointing straight down. A lot of people, when they do back kicks, have a tendency to open their hip up and turn their foot sideways. Again, foot sideways, we're doing a side kick. I want to keep this as a back kick for the drill. Working straight through those hips. I come up, drive it, and there we go. All right. So 4 basic kicks, 4 basic punches, plus a few bonuses. There's a lot of things you can add. We try to stay away from anything that's going to have the joints moving against the joints. A lot of times on videos, you'll see a lot of martial artists that'll come in and do their ridge hands off of these where they're extending their arm and hitting into the bag this way. Especially if you're just getting into fitness, probably a challenging thing to do. Risky because it's going to put risk of damage on your elbows. You're going to kind of hyperextend that elbow as you strike. So I want to try to keep everything coming into the bag so that my line on my joints is solid and supported. So we'll stay away from some of those. I can come crosshand with my chops. I can do side shudos, a little bit of strain on the shoulders, but if I really get going, they work. Also know your force that you're going to hit with. Like I said, I like to mix up the intensity. Sometimes I'll be really tapping the bag, just going for speed, trying to go nice and quick. If I'm doing that, I can get some of these moves in where I'm just kind of flipping out and coming opposite the joints, similar to a sport fighting application. If I'm really rocking the bag and if I'm having one of those days where I just want to see that bag bouncing, I'm going to make sure I'm keeping everything straight in alignment. I'm going to protect my joints, protect my ligaments, make sure I stay strong and I'm able to train the next day. All right, so you have all your basic punches and your basic kicks that you need to get started. Best way to get started after you get one of these heavy bags and pick yourself up a pair of gloves is get yourself a little interval timer, set it up on the side. I'll set it up for whatever rounds I'm doing. For one day, if I'm doing, for example, I'm doing a minute with a 40-second break, I'll set it up for 10 rounds, a minute, 40 seconds, and just let it fly. We'll come up. Couple basic routines if you're looking to get started we can start with. Hands are up. I can start with my jab cross, duck and slide. So I'm here, I do 1, 2. I'm going to duck underneath, and as I come up, I throw another cross with my left. So from here, right jab, left cross, I'm going to duck under, and as I come up, I throw that big cross with my back hand. So one more time, 1, 2, duck, boom, there's my strike to the back. All right. Quick basic one there. I can also mix it up. I can come in, throw a side kick, step down, jab cross, big roundhouse kick with my back leg. 1, 2, big roundhouse kick with the back leg. I can do my side, 1, 2, up, coming up, 1, 2, big hook. So really just come in and play with it. Like I said, I like to mix up the intensity of it. It's one of the reasons it's one of my favorite workouts is because it's so flexible. I can change it up depending on the kind of mood I'm in. If I want to come in and I want to work speed, perfect. If I want to work intensity, perfect. I can work my flexibility, working on my bag here. For example, my roundhouse kicks, I can come 2 in. I can start with a low kick down, bring it up and do a high kick second without putting my foot down. I can work back and forth. So I'm coming back and forth with my kicks. All of that coming right off the bag. Again, the more I mix it up, the more my body's going to change. All right. Anyway, hope you enjoyed our heavy bag breakdown for you. We'll be showing you some full-on heavy bag workouts in later episodes, but we thought this first episode would like to get you set up, show you all the mechanics and what you need. If you decide you want to try it, you guys have an outstanding day. We'll see you next time. What's up? Hey everybody, Sensei Randy here. Welcome to another segment on 40 Plus Fitness, and I'm here with Kate Cretsinger today. I'm going to talk a little bit about nutrition, and I know I met Kate a little while back, and she actually was huge helping me with something that I was having an issue with that she's going to talk about today. and I still haven't had any of those.
You haven't? Oh,
I've
I'm
still
so
been
proud
good,
of you.
so I'm get myself together again.
That's
So
awesome.
anyway, thank you. Thanks for
Yeah.
taking the time and coming down here and talking to us today.
Yeah, thank you for
So
having me.
no problem. So you wanted to talk a little bit about
Inflammation.
awesome subject.
It is an awesome subject.
Something we talk about a lot.
And you know, a lot of people don't even realize what inflammation is a lot of the time. You know, when I talk to a lot of, especially the young adults in their 20s, and I say, you know, do you have inflammation? And they look at me like, well, what's that? You know, like, no, I don't have inflammation. You know, this is when you're unstoppable and you have nothing wrong with you, right? When you're in your 20s. And so it comes down to headaches, right? Joint ache pain, gas, bloating, you know, ADHD, asthma, any kind of heart disease, high blood pressure, high cholesterol.
So basically every commercial that you see on television at any point during the day.
Yep, right up to cancer and everything in between. So cancer is an inflammatory disease that's out there. And one of the things that we don't like to hear that, because a lot of the times we are led to believe, and not a lot of the times we are led to believe, that it's our genes. Because if you think about it, when we hear about it, they're talking about finding the right gene, trying to, or it's hereditary. We inherit it, you know, because we've got that gene. So when we really think about it, there's like 2%, maybe 3% of cancers out there that are genetic. Everything else is controlled by us and what we eat. And so when you actually hear those statistics, you're like, oh, wow. So we do have more control over our health than we're led to believe. And I like to just kind of go back just a little bit more, back to looking at, you know, us as the United States, and we are 5% of the world's population. And of that 5%, we take 55% of the prescribed medications that are out there, and over-the-counter ones as well. And so a lot of the times we're like, we have the best health care, you know, and if we do have the best health care, then why are we not ranked top 10 for the best, healthiest countries in the world? The World Health Organization puts on these tests, these studies on who is the top 40 healthiest countries. We're actually number 37. We're almost at the bottom. And when you look at the amount of drugs that we take, and you know where we fall on the World Health Organization's list of the healthiest countries, well, doesn't that raise some questions? People are like, okay, what's going on here? And so do you think, and I'm going to ask you this question because I ask a lot of people this question, if you think they made that perfect pill to take care of all the diseases out there to make us healthy, do you think that would change us here in the United States?
You would think it would have, right?
You would think, right? Because we have the best healthcare and all these great medications, but we're not, right? So if you take a look at the top 7 diseases that are killing Americans, it's cancer, it's heart disease, it's Alzheimer's, and it's Parkinson's. So these are the ones that are the biggest that are killing us. And if we take a look at how they're, how they're coming at these diseases, we're looking at it as genes. They're all looking at our genes. One of the things I want to mention is, and maybe you're old enough to remember this, when I talk to people now, they're much younger and they don't remember this, but back in the 80s, like early 80s, late 70s, the Great Lakes had an issue. And one of the issues was they were worried about the viability of some birds because these fish were being washed ashore with tumors, and these birds were eating the fish and they were laying brittle eggs. So these environmentalists said, okay, well, what we're going to do is just clean up the water. We're going to clean up the environment around the water. So they took care of, like the all the mills and the factories that are around. They took care of the waste that was getting dumped in there, and they just kind of cleared it up. Well, none of the birds were extinct, and neither were the fish. And they're actually all thriving now. All they did was clean up the lake. That's all they did. So when we take a look at the fish and us and the birds, are we any different?
It's funny because one of the things that I've thought for years is we actually kind of go backwards when we're talking about these diseases and we study the sick people.
Yeah.
And if you're trying to get healthy, shouldn't we be studying healthy people?
Yeah.
And when you look at the healthy people, like they talk about viruses, and you have a flu as a virus, and what I'm reading in a lot of studies is, no, it's not the virus that's causing you to be sick. It's your environment is causing the virus.
Exactly.
And that's actually what's causing. So if you take care of your environment,
exactly,
with like we do the detoxes, and it's amazing. After like I do like the 10-day cleanses and stuff,
awesome.
I will go months without getting sick,
Mm-hmm.
and nothing stops you, and it's because that environment is clean and everything's working the way it's supposed to. So
Yeah.
I absolutely agree. You dead on.
And environment means many things, right? So it means the stuff that we are in. Our skin's our largest organ. So anything we put on our skin is our environment too. Our skin is our largest organ. Whatever we put on it, we absorb. So I always tell people, if you're not willing to eat it, don't put it on your skin. If you don't eat it, don't put it in there, because you are absorbing it. So in a sense, you are ingesting it, just in a different way. So that's another thing. And then our biggest one is our food, because we're constantly eating, right? And so that's the one we're going to talk about today is nutrition. And what we don't, and I just shared the story with you, and when I walked in, one of my clients, I've only been working with her for 2 months, she's off her blood pressure medications just from changing how she eats. And that is huge.
Yep, absolutely.
And she's not even working out. So, when you put both of those together, it's huge, right? You have profound changes when you do that. So one of the things that I've noticed in the years that I've been doing this with my clients is there's 2 things that really cause inflammation problems in all of us. There are some things that are different maybe for you than for me. For a while it was kale for me. Now I can eat it. Maybe kale wasn't a problem for you. So these food sensitivities and these food allergies come from us having an imbalance in our gut. And that imbalance in our gut is inflammation. And that's what shows up. So it's whatever that gene that we do have is turned on and off by these 2 food items the most. And that is grains and that is sugar. So I'm going to dig a little bit deeper on how that affects us, right? So for longevity and for health, what that means for us is that we have to minimize the stress levels. And we don't know what stress is, apparently, here in stress, what's that? And no sleep is stress too, right? So
guilty.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of us are. A lot of us are guilty of that. And so, if I don't help take care of that underlying stress and we just adjust nutrition, it's not going to do you any good if you're eating 100% clean and you're not taking care of the stress. So there's a couple, areas that you can come from. Yeah, you can start with nutrition first, because you'll start seeing some good results, and then start working on the other stressors. And sometimes people are just so stressed they can't work on the nutrition. So pick one that works for you and your schedule. And this is what this is all about, is small baby steps. It took us small baby steps to get where we are. It's going to take us small baby steps to get where we need to be, but we're so impatient. We want results yesterday.
Yeah, it's like Einstein says, you can't change the problem you have today with the same thinking you had that created it.
Exactly. And that's insanity, right? Isn't that what they call that? So, I think one of the things that the grains that I was talking about, when we eat grains, that releases insulin. And wherever there's insulin, there's fat storage, and then there's inflammation. So what we want to do is limit the amount of insulin spikes that we get. So anytime you eat anything, it doesn't matter what it is, we release insulin. And it's okay to have like an even keel dose of insulin in there, but when we get those spikes, it's traumatic for us. And that's what gives us the biggest spikes, are the carbs and the sugar, right? And carbs turn to sugar. It's, in a sense, the same thing. So one of the things that I always tell people is it's not the calories in and the calories out that we have to be careful of when we want to lose weight or get healthier. It's the amount of carbs and sugar that we eat that we have to pay attention to. And so I find that when we dig into taking out grains first, that's where we see the results the best. It's the hardest item to take out of what we're eating. Because when we eat these grains, a lot of people think it's gluten that's the problem. It's a protein of gluten called gliadin. And that has a unique property in that when we eat it, it actually eats a hole in the lining of our stomach. So depending on how healthy our gut is, depends on when you finally have a breakthrough in your gut when you're eating grains. So when you're experiencing gas and bloating after you eat, you've got leaky gut. That's what leaky gut is. You've got a hole in your stomach and you're eating and food particles are coming out of that hole in your stomach, out of these holes. And when it comes out of those holes, our body looks at it as, because it hasn't gone through our full digestive system yet, so it's not broken down into particles that we can absorb. like amino acids,
So
right?
it's trying to figure out how to get rid of it.
It's trying to figure out how to get rid of it. So it looks at it as a foreign invader, it attacks it, and that causes that inflammation. And whatever gene you have is what turns it on. So the whole idea is to try and eliminate these as much as possible. And it's not something you can do overnight. It's hard to do. So it's like pick one food item, work on that, find a healthy replacement for it, then move on to the next. And it's going to take some time to do that. And then I always say, well, once you get to that point where you've removed grains as much as you want, then you work on sugar and start cutting back on your sugar content. And what helps us do that is lots of water. If we drink half our body weight in water, and then we eat fat. Yes, fat, the dreaded F word. A lot of people are scared of that. We've been told since the 70s that it's bad for us. And that's what our body functions often. It also helps with inflammation. So if you think about it, a lot of the kids these days, and I'm sure you see it in here too, they all have a lot of hyper disorder. Either it's ADHD or ADD. And a lot of the times, all we have to do is feed them fat, and they totally turn around and are totally different kids. And so it's because our brain is made up of omega-6s, and so are our cells. Our cells are made up of omega-6s.
Which is what we get from the healthy fats.
Exactly. Yep. So think about all the fat that we've had low fat, no fat diets since the 70s when that food pyramid came out. That was at the top of the food pyramid. Guess what was at the bottom? Grains.
So we've basically flipped and taken all the healthy stuff that was helping us.
Yes.
And loaded up heavier on the stuff that's actually causing. And if you look at the timetable for a lot of the diseases we're talking about, the instances of, like you said, the ADHD, I mean, you can't turn around today without,
No.
I'm in a child business. I mean, my karate school is 90% kids. And
Yeah.
I can't tell you the amount of people that come to us, first of all, because of the ADHD issues, and then how many of them are on these medications. And you look at the medications and it doesn't give you a warm and fuzzy.
No, a lot of the side effects.
The results are like the side effects, but also the results they're getting are hit or miss. And I can't tell you how many times I hear, well, we're just trying to find the balance of, if you have to find a balance of something, something's off.
Yeah.
That is a red flag for me, at least.
Absolutely, and it should be for everybody. But we're too quick to listen to someone that has an initial after their name, and that's just how we've been taught. My dad's a big, he's really big into taking medications, and I'm not, but that's just his generation. And I think our generation's more aware that we can definitely do a lot more with, working out and eating properly and just being, mindful of what we're doing to our bodies to help us stay healthier. Because I think, our kids that are born now, this younger generation, they're the first generation that's not going to outlive us. That's kind of sad. That's scary. And if they continue to go in that direction, that's why we need people like us to start making that change for our future, the young kids. And I'm seeing more young kids come into my office than anything else. And so I educate the parents and help them. And the biggest one that really rings true to me is, kids that are on the spectrum, that have autism. And I had this one client, and I still talk to them, but he, at the time I started working with him, was 21, and he didn't have any signaling, nothing, couldn't even touch a computer to answer his questions. He wouldn't do anything. Now he does. He actually picks things up, he rolls things around, actually picks out certain things when he's eating. His mom sent me a video crying. She couldn't believe in all his years, he had never done this, and he's all of a sudden doing this, and we just took grains and dairy out of his.
Wow. And I'm going to kind of just keep us going here because you hit something with me. And I know you wanted to go into another topic as well. Mm-hmm. And we'll get there, if not in this episode, maybe it's, because from the sound of it, this is going to be a lot.
I can talk forever about this stuff.
But I was just thinking, somebody had recommended, and I don't even remember the name of the movie.
Health?
It was something I got on, I think it was on like one of the streaming, like a Netflix or something.
Yeah.
But it was actually looking at a group of people and the effect that the grains, I think it was specific to grains, actually had on them. And there was a child that was autistic, and they showed before footage of her, and then after about a week, suddenly she's sitting at the table using utensils, which she had never done before. And
She was eating like chicken nuggets, and she was
yeah,
eating like Cheerios,
and not sitting at the table. And it's I see it with kids. We have like our after school program here, and the kids come in and have a snack, and I have to like every time direct them, sit down at the table.
Yeah.
You can't be walking around with food, and it's constant picking up and walking and picking up and walking.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm bad, and my wife's laughing right now, going, "Yeah, you sit in front of the TV." Not very often, but just that just really it hits because the impact that had.
Yeah.
And
they're saying now that ADD, ADHD is on the spectrum now, is what they're saying. And my son grew up with it, ADHD, and it was a battle that I had to have with his teachers. They're not equipped to learn how to, I would just tell him to take laps around the house. Like, go run around. We lived on a cul-de-sac. Go run around the cul-de-sac. Go. He'd come back. He was still wired. Go back again. Like I would tell him to keep going. And it was, that was the way for me to help him. But it came down to, at that time, thankfully, I had this woman, nurse practitioner, who was smart enough to not prescribe him anything. Because I told her, I don't want to put him on prescription medications. And these teachers were forcing me to. They were pushing me to because he just couldn't concentrate. And we did raw milk. We did, like fish oil, all that. And it helped out quite a bit for him. So one of the things that these processed foods have are dyes, which totally makes those symptoms exacerbated. So if you could just take out processed food out of these children's, diets, then they would be 100% different. 100% different. Yeah. I had this one child that came in that was angry, like very angry and very vocally angry. And we just took out dairy and grains. Totally, the mom was like, he's a totally different kid. And so there are instances where you do need it. I'm not bashing the medical community in that way. There's a place for it, but we're quick to take it instead of trying these natural alternatives first, because the medical model is when you take it, you're taking it for life. Whereas this way, we do what we can to heal, because our body's amazing. If we give it everything that it can, it's going to heal. It's got this innate ability to do that. Yeah. And so we've got to give it the ability to do that by removing the interferences. And food is an interference. It's information for our body, because we're constantly putting it in our body. So that's information for our cells. That's information for how our brain works. So we have to give it the good stuff, and we have to start making better decisions, because the food on the shelves in the grocery store are made to stay on the grocery store, not in our gut. So if you think about it that way, if it's going to last long there, well, what's it doing in here? Yeah. Right.
And it's what you're saying about the medication too. I mean, I was never a fan of the medication because I would read the side effects, and the side effects I would rather have what I have as opposed to some of these side effects. But I always looked at it as well, especially like I'm very familiar with anxiety and panic attacks. And if somebody's at that point, the medication to get them to the point where you can actually help them with coping mechanisms, get them to be able to change their diet, I'm fine with. And then as it comes around, they come off it.
Yes.
You were talking about somebody with blood pressure medication. I had a similar thing with somebody I was really big into the green drinks at one point. And I had somebody that was in one of my classes and like, you don't look good. And he ended up going to the doctor, and he has low blood pressure. Well, he was on blood pressure medication. He had blood pressure for years. But once that allowed him, the blood pressure medication allowed him to exercise, and then the green drinks helped cleanse it and fix everything. Suddenly he no longer needed the blood pressure. Hasn't been on it since.
That's awesome.
Which is great because it actually gave him the ability to actually get his environment and get himself in order in a natural way, and then he came off the medication, which I think is,
huge.
Is awesome. All right. Well, I hate to cut you off.
It's all right.
Hopefully you'll be able to come back and do another show with us.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Everybody, thank you very much for joining us today. We'll be coming back with some more nutrition with Kate again, and thanks for joining us. Hey everybody, Sensei Randy here. Welcome back to 40 Plus Fitness, and now we're going to talk a little bit about nutrition. In one of our earlier shows, you may remember we showed the green smoothies that we do. I do those every morning. First thing I do in the morning, I have some water, I take my vitamins, give it about 15-20 minutes, and then I have my green smoothie. We're going to show you a few more of the protein shakes that we actually make, and these are like my treats. These are the ones I like because I enjoy it. If I'm looking for a little snack and I'm getting that little craving, these are the kind of things that I like to go to when I have the opportunity. So we're going to start off with a real basic one. First one we're going to do today, we're going to use some fresh vegetables. We're coming into that season, some fresh fruits. We're going to do an apple cinnamon smoothie for you. So we're going to start off with an apple, and all we're going to do is we're going to just chop up a little bit of the apple here. So we'll cut up the apple, pop it into some chunks so we can just get it into the blender. Let's see what we got here. Yeah, all right. So the cool thing about these smoothies is you get into this time of year, you start to be able to get your hands on all the fresh fruits and fresh vegetables. I'll throw a little more in, right? So probably about a cup of apples. We're going to add some spinach. So load it up a little bit. It's about a cup of spinach. We're going to throw in some raw almonds. And about a half a cup of raw oats. And we're going to add a little bit of cinnamon. So we'll just give it a few shakes of cinnamon. Awesome. And then since we're using fresh fruits and vegetables, we're going to throw in some ice cubes. So give it a little bit of body to it. And then for this shake, we're going to use some almond milk. A lot of people switch to almond milk. It gets them away from the pure dairy, and they think they're eating really healthy. And one of the things you have to watch for with almond milk is depending on the type of almond milk and the flavors they add, you could actually end up taking in an awful lot of sugar if you're not careful. So you want to look at the sugar amounts when you're looking at the almond milk. Just make sure you're not overdoing it on sugar. You think you're doing something healthy, and the next thing you know, you're all wound up on sugar and you can't figure out where it's coming from. So again, I got my little Nutrininja here. We're going to drop the top in, and it'll kick up for about a minute. Awesome. So we throw it on for about 20 seconds. We're going to open it back up again, and we're going to add a little protein to it. So the protein I use with this one, we're going to use a vanilla protein. Again, these are just organic protein you get at any grocery store or health food store. And the main ingredient of these, where you're getting the protein from, is actually peas. They're all different. Again, you really got to keep an eye with your proteins. We found some of the brands you buy are, again, they're loaded with sugars. If you think you're eating healthy and you find you're taking in an awful lot more sugar, if it tastes really good, you might want to consider taking a look at what you got. At one point, I was doing a lot of protein bars as meal replacements, and somehow along the way, I got myself convinced that a chocolate caramel protein bar was healthy for me. And it was great. It had nice protein in it, and then when I actually read the amount of sugar in it, it was more sugar than I take in a day normally. So you got to be careful with your health foods nowadays. So we're going to throw it in. Now we'll give it the full minute, let it roll. So we let it roll for that minute. All we got to do now is just crack that blender open. We're going to clean it off a little bit here so we don't make a mess. We'll just grab our trusty cap. And we are good to go. Again, one of the things I like about blender systems, this one, I know there's a few of them that do it. I think the pulse feature is great, especially when you're doing a lot of really heavy, Like a lot of the greens can get a little stringy. If you're doing kales, you tend to get a little bit of chop and it tastes a little gritty. The pulse feature on these are great. It lets everything settle down and really get worked into the blades. And nice and simple, comes right off. You pop the cap on, flip it closed. When you're ready to drink it, flip it open. Great flavor. Gives you some nice healthy proteins, a little bit of natural sugars, all good to go. So this one gives you a little bit of greens. I'll do these a lot in the summer during the afternoons. The next one is my favorite. My favorite go-to protein shake. So we're gonna mix one up here for you so you can see how it goes together. Again, we're just gonna start with our cup here, and this one here is gonna use a lot of fruit. So we're gonna go with a lot of the fruits that have the antioxidants in them. We're gonna use some strawberries, some blueberries, some dark cherries. And this one we're gonna start off with chocolate. So we'll go with our chocolate protein. Again, just a nice, good quality whey protein, very low in sugar. Give it a little extra kick. We're a little hungry today. So we'll throw in our protein powder. After that, you can use peanut butter. I tend to use almond butter when I do this. And get a little scoop in here. Probably about a tablespoon. Then we'll throw in some banana. Depending on the size of the banana, typically I'll do half a banana. Now, a little while back, I was informed by my son that I was actually opening bananas incorrectly. I always used to try to pull the top apart, and I used to bust up the top of the banana. And he informed me that when they watched monkeys open bananas, they actually did it from what we would consider the bottom, or what's hanging down on the tree. And if you just give it a squeeze, it actually pops open nice and easy. You just take off the little stem at the end. So, thank you, Johnny. So we're gonna throw in that banana. We're gonna load it up. Now, we'll add the fruits. Now the fruits I mix up all the time. Sometimes I'll do blueberries, cherries, strawberries. We've done raspberries. Typically blueberries are a staple. Almost always use blueberries in them. The antioxidant levels are high. Any of your dark fruits like that, the cherries, again, nice antioxidants. Blackberries. And the cool part of this is right now I'm doing it with the frozen vegetables. You get them all year round. Easy to get into, easy to find. You just get them at your grocery store's freezer. As we get into season, there's an awful lot of places around. You can go up to the farm stands. You can get all these vegetables fresh. If I do fresh vegetables when I do these, the only difference again is I'm going to add some ice to it. So we'll add some ice just to get that texture for us. And again, I'm just mixing between a half and a cup of my fruits, and I get it all loaded up. Awesome. Now for this one, change it up a little bit. We're going to go with some coconut water. Coconut water, really good for you, loaded with electrolytes, really helps you with your recovery. Getting rid of all the acids in your system. We're going to do about, with this one, it's usually about an 8-second pour. Filling it up. Awesome. And again, we're just going to pop that top on. Lock it down. This one's just going to go a straight minute. So, finishes up its minute. Again, we're just going to crack it open and we can go. Like I said, this is my absolute favorite one. Like a Saturday afternoon when I'll get home from the studio, or Sunday if we're working out in the yard. Between meals, you need a little snack. Love the taste of this one. And the other great thing about these is, since you're mixing all the different berries, you'll have different types of berries, different amounts of berries on different days. You can add more peanut butter. You can take the peanut butter out, or the almond butter. Add more banana, less banana. All depends on what you're feeling. A lot of times it depends on what I actually have in the kitchen. So great way to mix it up. You said great flavor. Gives you a good amount of protein. I believe when we calculated them out, normal full serving of this, it's about 37, 38 grams of protein. It's all natural sugars. There's no really added sugars to it. I think the sugar count was somewhere around the 10 or 11 grams of sugar total, I believe. That's with the protein and everything. So all in all, real healthy snack, much better than reaching into a candy dish or grabbing a bag of Oreos and fueling yourself up. All right, anyway, thanks for joining us today. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Again, you can check out these recipes. We have them, or you can go anywhere on the web and look for them. The important thing is you take the time to actually go out and do it. Like you said, this was really quick. You can see we can make a couple up. Right now, I believe I got it down where I'm getting ready in the morning and I'm making 2 protein shakes. Roughly about 4 minutes, I can be in the kitchen and out of the kitchen ready to go. So nice, quick, easy, healthy snack. So when you tell yourself, oh, I don't have time to make anything healthy, there you go. We just gave you one. All right, you guys have a great day. We'll see you on our next episode. What's up?